She caught her boyfriend cheating with another woman. She snapped. But the truth will shock you as who Maya really is. Maya remembers her childhood as a series of dark, blurry images, the sound of crashing dishes, her mother's soft crying, and the sharp sting of her father's anger. These memories, lodged deep within her, are like shards of glass cutting her whenever she dares to touch them. In her therapist's office, she struggles to put her childhood into words. How can pain like that be explained? She wonders. Dr. Ellis watches her quietly, knowing that Maya's traumas run as deep as her silence. But life isn't all therapy sessions. Outside that small room, Maya is a quiet, hard-working woman in her late 20s, managing a big company that deals with fabrics and cloth designs. She has carefully crafted a life that looks peaceful from the outside. She stays busy, but her friendships are surface level, and her romantic life has always been one painful loop of abandonment. She thinks of her mother often, wondering how much of her life she inherited, not just the moments of joy, but the curse of heartbreak. Maya has been in therapy for over 10 years, as her childhood left a dangerous mark on her. After her father died from an accident caused by unknowingly circumstances, her mother went to prison. Maya was fostered as a child and was given a free visitation to see her mother. Maya was always mistreated and thrown aside by her father. He's an alcoholic, a cruel person, and a violating man towards his family. Anna, Maya's mother, condoles every actions taken on her by her husband. Anna lived in constant fear every day of her life, as she doesn't know what her husband might do next. Maya was barely 11 years old, growing up in a broken home where she watched her mother endure constant mistreatment and cruelty from her father. Maya was disheartened and always locked herself inside her room and closed her door to avoid the agonizing shouting pains of her mother's voice. Maya's father always mistreated her too for no reason, as Maya started to live in constant fear just like her mother. She couldn't differentiate what is real and what isn't real anymore. One time she's happy, the other time she's sad, and the other time she looks dangerous, and another time she's calm in a spiteful way. Her mother realized that Maya is getting sick due to too much trauma she had encountered from an abused father. She tried to help her daughter to escape that life until something happened that changed it all. One day, in the night at around 12 o'clock in the midnight, Bernard, Maya's father, came back. He was drunk as he picked an offense at Anna, her wife. "Why did you not knock? I opened the door since I was knocking," he said with a drunken voice. Before Anna could respond, the force of his anger sent her to the floor, leaving her in stunned silence. Maya watched in horror from across the room as her father turned to her. "What are you staring at?" he snarled, stumbling toward her. In a moment of fear and fury, Maya pushed him away, desperate to protect herself and her mother. Bernard lost his balance and fell onto the couch, hitting his head. He lay still, the room sinking into a haunting silence as he passed away instantly. Anna was shocked at what happened. Looked at Maya, but something was different. She didn't feel remorse of what she did, not even for one bit. But someone had to explain what happened. Anna protected her daughter and went in for it. Maya was taken to a foster home where she lived and grew up. Her mother died in the prison 3 years later after the incident, and Maya grew up alone in the foster home with other teenage girls like her. She learned how to suppress her disorder as she was assigned a therapist at the age of 18, which helped her put herself in others as she grew. Maya had a good friend named Diasa, someone she had grown close to while they were both in foster care. They had always gotten along, finding comfort in each other's presence during difficult times. When they turned 19, their paths diverged as they reached adulthood. Diasa went off to college in another city, while Maya pursued a degree in polymer and fabric design at a private college. She excelled, graduating at the top of her class, and secured a job at a company that greatly valued her expertise. Years passed, and one day, after 8 long years, Diasa and Maya finally reconnected. They shared their experiences, catching up on the time they had missed. But as the conversation progressed, Maya began to change the subject every time Diasa asked about certain aspects of her life. Maya's history, though successful in many ways, was filled with deep pain. She had been in 6 relationships, each ending with mistreatment or betrayal. Cheating had been the worst, and it almost broke her completely. Only with the support of her therapist had she found the strength to keep going. She had sworn off dating, convinced that she was cursed, just like her mother had been. Diasa, sensing Maya's struggle, chose not to push her further. She realized how much pain Maya had endured over the years, and instead of questioning her more, she decided to just be there, quietly supportive, and let Maya heal in her own time. Their reunion was bittersweet, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their friendship, each of them continuing on their own path. The next day, after a long day at the office, Maya stopped by a bar to grab a quick snack and finish some leftover paperwork. As she sat at the bar, a young man walked up to her. Maya turned and for a brief moment found herself lost for words. She took a few seconds to regain her composure before responding. "Hey, hope you don't mind, but I'd like to get to know you," the man said with a warm smile. Though Maya couldn't deny his good looks, she quickly declined his offer. "You men are all the same," she muttered, her words laced with bitterness before she stood up and left. The young man wasn't offended. In fact, he could only think about the possibility of seeing her again. On Saturday morning, Diasa came to Maya's apartment to spend some time with her, knowing that Maya tended to isolate herself to avoid getting hurt. As they sat together, Diasa couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She observed Maya closely, searching for what had changed. "What's really wrong, Maya?" Diasa asked, her voice filled with concern. "Don't get me wrong, you still seem like the same person, an isolated, kind of tough girl. But there's something different about you, so tell me what's going on." Maya, overwhelmed with emotion, finally let her guard down and began to speak through her tears. She confessed how her past relationships had never ended well, despite her best efforts to make them work. She had tried so hard to maintain her composure and positive behavior, but nothing had ever seemed to last. Diasa felt a deep sorrow for her, regretting not being there for Maya all these years. She promised that, from now on, she would be there for Maya no matter what. On Monday morning, Maya set off for work, but along the way, her car suddenly broke down. Stranded and unable to get it to start, she found herself far outside the service area. She waited for hours, hoping for help, until a car finally passed by and stopped. To her surprise, the young man who got out of the car was the same one she had met at the bar. Both of them instantly recognized each other. "Who says fate isn't real? We meet again," he said, smiling. Maya, taken aback, couldn't help but wonder if he had been following her. Was this some kind of coincidence, or was he now trying to play the role of her hero? She couldn't believe it was by pure chance, so she hesitated when he offered to help. "I'm still finding it hard to believe this, and I'm not following you in your car," she replied to Alan, the young man. But, with no other options, and out of desperation, she finally agreed to let him drive her. Alan took her to the point where she needed to stop, and before she left, he asked for her number, wanting to stay in touch. Maya, however, refused and walked away, leaving him stranded once again. But Alan wasn't discouraged. He made himself a promise that he would win her heart, no matter what. At the office later, Maya sat at her desk, her thoughts swirling around the incident with Alan. She wondered if she was making the right choice by pushing him away, or if she should just keep her heart closed. As she reflected on her past relationships, fear gripped her, and she found it hard to imagine getting involved again. Just then, Diasa came to visit Maya at her office. "We just saw each other on Saturday, and here you are again. It's so soon," Maya said, raising an eyebrow. "I think you remember my promise to you, so I'm just here for a few minutes, and then I'm off," Diasa replied with a grin. Maya enjoyed Diasa's company, but she hated being pitied, and she knew how easily she could break. Sensing that Maya was a bit lighter than usual, Diasa asked what had made her smile. Maya hesitated before telling Diasa about her encounter with Alan that morning. Diasa urged her to stop avoiding relationships and give it a chance. After a brief discussion and some convincing, Maya finally agreed to give it a try. The next day, Diasa had to leave town for important work. Maya spent the entire night thinking about it, but nothing made sense. She was terrified of getting her heart broken again, unsure if she could handle it. But deep down, she knew she couldn't keep running from her feelings. The next day, she decided to see her therapist. In Dr. Ellis's office, Maya sat on the couch, lost in thought. Dr. Ellis observed her closely. "You're troubled. Care to explain?" she asked, curiosity in her voice. Maya hesitated, but then opened up, telling Dr. Ellis about her fear of dating again. She wasn't sure if she could trust anyone enough to open her heart again. Dr. Ellis encouraged her to give it a chance, reminding her that it had been 3 years since she'd been with anyone. "It's time," Dr. Ellis said gently. "You deserve happiness." With renewed determination, Maya decided to give it a try. After leaving Dr. Ellis's office, she headed to the bar that evening, hoping to see Alan. She sat for 2 hours, but when he didn't appear, she decided to leave. As she was about to walk out, she bumped into a man. Looking up, she realized it was Alan. "Before you say anything, I wasn't following you. I just happened to see you," Alan said, worried she might be upset. To his surprise, Maya smiled warmly and introduced herself. Alan was taken aback, but decided to go with the flow. The two spent the rest of the evening talking and laughing. Alan couldn't help but gaze at Maya, captivated by her smile and her easygoing nature. But beyond her charm, he saw the vulnerable side of her, the innocent soul trying to break free from the walls she had built around herself. That, more than anything, made him desire her even more. As time passed, their friendship blossomed into a deep, unexpected love. Alan was a good man, and he never wavered in his care for Maya. He saw the real her, the one who had been hurt, but also the one he cherished and wanted to protect. Maya, in turn, began to let her walls down. Slowly, she realized that Alan was her anchor, the one person she could trust. She let go of the anger and fear that had held her captive for so long. With Alan, she felt safe, vulnerable, and loved. But the road wasn't easy. Maya still struggled with nightmares that haunted her every night, memories of the pain she had endured in the past. Alan stayed by her side, watching over her, comforting her as best as he could. He tried to help her face her fears, even though he knew it was a painful process. Maya's therapist and Diasa had always understood her, but now Alan was learning to understand her too. He even checked in on her at work, making sure she was okay. Slowly, Maya realized she had fallen deeply in love with him, something she never thought would happen again. But everything changed one day. Sophia, Alan's coworker, had always shown interest in him, but Alan never took her seriously. He tried to avoid her advances, knowing he was in a committed relationship with Maya. However, during a company event, Alan and Sophia were tasked with presenting together. As part of their preparations, they were asked to shop for outfits for the presentation. Alan, excited to have Maya join him, asked her to meet him at the boutique downtown. Sophia, however, had other plans. As they were shopping, she pulled Alan aside and asked, "Why can't you see me? Am I invisible to you?" Alan, growing frustrated, replied, "We've talked about this. I'm in a relationship with someone else. Please don't ruin it." But Sophia wasn't easily deterred. As fate would have it, Maya arrived just as Sophia leaned in to kiss Alan in a way that would make sure Maya saw. Alan immediately pushed her away, but it was too late. Maya had already seen what had happened. She felt a sharp pang of betrayal and panic. Her heart shattered as she watched Alan with another woman. Terrified and confused, she fled, feeling broken and unsure of what was real anymore. In that moment, all the pain she had buried deep inside took over. Her vengeful side, the one she had fought so hard to suppress, surged forth. Alan had no idea she had left, still waiting for her to join him. Maya, consumed by her emotions, didn't know how to process the betrayal, and she couldn't see a way out of the pain she was feeling. Maya walked into Dr. Ellis's office, looking disheveled and far from her usual self. She sat down quietly. Though no session had been scheduled, Dr. Ellis immediately noticed something was different. Concerned, the therapist asked, "What's wrong, Maya?" Maya looked up, her eyes vacant. "I found out my boyfriend cheated on me today." Dr. Ellis, trying to understand, asked, "How does that make you feel?" Maya forced a smile, but it was hollow. "I feel nothing. I'm just empty." Maya mumbled to herself as her thoughts spiraled. Dr. Ellis could see the deep shift in her. This was not the Maya she had known. The woman sitting before her seemed lost, untethered. Dr. Ellis thought to herself, Maya is too broken to accept who she is now. Concerned, Dr. Ellis made a quick call to get some help, but when she returned, she found that Maya had vanished. A wave of fear swept over her. She didn't know what Maya might do now. At home, Maya sat quietly, waiting for Alan to return. When he walked in, he was startled to find her on the couch, smiling unnervingly. "I didn't expect you," Alan said carefully, picking up a piece of paper, trying to mask his unease. But before he could react, everything went black. Alan awoke, disoriented and tied to a chair. His mind raced, and confusion gripped him as he saw Maya standing before him. "What's going on? Who are you?" Alan's voice shook, his fear growing. Maya stood cold and detached. Her voice was eerily calm as she spoke. "You cheated on Maya too. Now she is broken free, and I am here to serve you your punishment." Alan, panicking, tried to explain himself. "Maya, please, it's not like that. I love you. You have to believe me." But Maya was lost in her own confusion. Her sense of self was crumbling. "Who am I? What am I? I'm Maya. No, I'm not Maya. Who are you?" Tears welled in Alan's eyes as he reached out to her. "Maya, please, I'm here. I love you." But Maya was slipping further into her own turmoil, unable to differentiate between what was real and what was not. As she began to lose control, Dr. Ellis burst in with 2 attendants. They quickly restrained Maya and escorted her to the psych ward, where she could hopefully calm down. Diasa rushed to the hospital as soon as she heard. She found Maya in the ward, unrecognizable. The woman who had once been her lively, strong friend was now a shell of herself. Tears streamed down Diasa's face as she watched helplessly. Alan stood nearby, broken-hearted. He blamed himself for what had happened to Maya, feeling that he had failed her. But despite the pain, he refused to give up. He continued visiting Maya, reading to her, talking to her, trying everything he could to make her remember him. But Maya barely seemed to recognize him. She remained distant, a stranger in her own mind. 3 years passed, and Maya's condition showed no sign of improvement. Alan, exhausted and emotionally drained, had finally come to terms with something he never wanted to accept. Maya might never return to the person she once was. With a heavy heart, he made the painful decision to visit her for the last time. Alan sat beside Maya, tears filling his eyes as he gazed at her. "I'm sorry it turned out this way. I wish I could change it. But I've realized something. I can't do this anymore. I've tried everything, but it's time to let go. I will always love you. You'll always be in my heart. But it's time to move on." As Alan stood to leave, something miraculous happened. The moment his hand slipped from hers, Maya's memory suddenly returned in a flash. It was as if everything fell into place. She remembered not only Alan, but also the painful truth from her past, the tragic accident that had led to her father's death. Tears flooded her eyes as she whispered his name, "Alan." Alan turned in shock and saw Maya's eyes filled with recognition. His heart skipped a beat as she called him by name, her voice trembling with emotion. Without a second thought, Alan rushed to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Maya, you remember." Maya, still overwhelmed by the flood of memories and guilt, whispered through her tears, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't remember." Alan held her even tighter, overcome with joy. "It doesn't matter now. You're back. That's all that matters." Dr. Ellis stood in quiet awe, something she never thought she'd witness, a patient recovering from such profound trauma. She had seen many come and go, but none had ever experienced the miracle of healing like this. Maya had found her anchor, and Alan was that anchor. Dr. Ellis realized that her work had come to a close. Maya had rediscovered herself. She had reclaimed her life. Diasa, who had heard the news, rushed to see Maya. She embraced her tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. It was the happiest moment she'd experienced in years, a moment she thought might never come. Maya was finally discharged from the psych ward, as Dr. Ellis had approved. With Alan and Diasa by her side, she returned home, surrounded by love. They celebrated the long-awaited homecoming together. Maya had been reunited with Alan, and their love was stronger than ever. Even in the darkest moments, Maya found the strength to remember who she truly was. She vowed never to let her demons control her again, to never lose herself in the chaos. From that day forward, she embraced her new life with hope and a heart full of love. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.